Welcome to Fly on the Wall podcast. I'm your host, Chris Sonksen, CEO and founder of Church Boom. Here you get to sit in on a live coaching session as I coach pastors through the ministry challenges we all face. If you find this podcast helpful, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Hey, welcome to today's podcast. So excited that you're joining us. We're talking with my good buddy, Jared, and we're talking about figuring out what is mission critical for you as a leader, depending on where you're at in ministry. It's a great conversation. Hey, before we jump into it, I want to encourage you to check out churchboom.org. We've got so many things that are coaching certification programs, Church Boom University, our network. You can sign up there for that. Coaching, if you want to get some coaching, make sure to check out churchboom.org. But let's jump into the conversation with Jared. I think you're going to love this one. Well, dude, thanks for being on the podcast today. It's great to have you on, man. And let's jump into it. How can I serve you today, and what's on your mind?
Well, first of all, just I want to thank you and the whole Church Boom team, Chris, just for your willingness and honestly your heart for the local church, and truly the time, the energy, and the passion of giving your life for that and your team. I got to be a part of a couple of different events, and just to see with Church Boom, Church Rescue. It's just been great to see y'all's heart. And I do have a couple of questions. One, within our church, we have two locations. We're in three services at our central location, and then our other location we're just in one. We have around 9 to 10 staff members, one that's part-time, and we utilize a lot of our volunteers and building up volunteers to be able to lead in through the church, leading other team members. So my question is, how do you practically develop high-level leaders that are volunteers as far as a couple of areas, spiritually and culture? Any practical examples or ideas that you've seen in training or maybe consistent meetings when you're talking about high-level leaders that are leading other volunteers? So to give you a little bit of clarity, we have volunteer, what we call coaches that are leading team leaders across three services and their team members. So how can I, that lead or our team, develop these volunteers spiritually and culture as they're leading their team members and their team?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Well, first of all, I think it's awesome, man. You and I have been on the phone a few times, and I just know that God's doing awesome things in your church, and obviously you're a great leader. That's awesome. So first thing is, Jared, I think it's important for you as you're looking at a couple campuses and you're growing. I know you guys are growing right now. You're wanting to grow more. You'll end up growing more because you're a great leader. Your ability to be able to lead and continue to lead and move the church upward and forward is going to be your ability to adapt. You're going to have to adapt. In other words, how you function when you have 2 or 3 campuses is different than how you function when you have 6 or 7 campuses. How you function when you have 1,500 people is different than how you function when you have 5,000 people. And part of that comes down to a lot of it comes down to where you spend your time and where you put your effort. So you're talking about, hey, how do we develop these leaders that you have that are high-level leaders? How do I develop them? How do I stay in their life? So a couple things. One, I think it's important as you continue to grow for you to understand who gets Jared's digital time, who gets Jared's group time, who gets Jared's one-on-one time. You have to know the different levels and who's going to get what from you. Not everybody is going to get time with you. It's just not possible. Not everybody's going to get one-on-one time with you. Not everybody's going to get group time with you. Not everybody's going to get digital time with you. And so it's important that you're able to distinguish those differences. And it sounds like that's what you're doing. These high-level leaders that you're talking about, I think it's important. Well, let me ask you this first. Let me ask one more question. Are these high-level leaders that are high-level volunteer leaders, are they currently accountable to someone else outside of you?
So currently, I have directors that are also involved in their life. Some of those are staff members.
Yep.
So I have 5 directors around groups, hospitality, worship production, next gen, and also outreach. What we find is that we just added that last January.
Yep.
um, as a layer, really narrowing our staff to be more effective in those specific areas.
Yep.
We do have two volunteer directors, groups of directors that's around growth track.
Yep.
So yes, they would be answering within those directors,
Okay.
not
Okay.
necessarily directly to me.
Yep. Yep.
Does that help?
So, yeah, very much it helps. So, what you're really doing is, and I know you use the word coach, but in your world, but kind of move that for a moment. You're talking about the coach is your director. So I would call them the coach. At some point, you have to separate coach and expert. And the coach is the one that is doing the accountability. That's your directors. The
Mhm.
directors are the ones doing the accountability. Hopefully, not only holding them accountable, helping them grow, helping them develop, helping them, accomplish goals, dreams, and all of that. That's kind of that accountability. But you're the one that's got to come in as the voice of vision, the voice of direction, the voice of high-level leadership. That's the role that you have to play. You're not the role of accountability. You're not the role of day to day. You're the role of you step in. The general is here. Not that you've got some. You're not that kind of guy. But the general being like when it's like in the army. The general shows up and it's like, oh, well, he's here. He's got something to say. It's going to be important and it's going to be big because he doesn't show up to every meeting we have. You have to be that guy that shows up and says, man, I'm going to constantly cast vision to them. I'm going to constantly be speaking about culture to them. I'm going to constantly be talking about values and what our core values are versus our aspirational values. I'm going to constantly be talking about them. And I'm going to constantly be infusing leadership thoughts into their life and leadership direction. And knowing that difference and making sure that you are having a cadence of like, hey, I meet with them monthly or I meet with them every other month. I go through a book with them. I pour into them. I invest in them. Going through books is great, but it's and I think it's awesome. I love it. We call it leadership circles. But you have to know in your mind you're separating accountability from them growing and they're developed. That's your job. So your job is, man, I want to grow them. I want to add value to them. I want to talk about vision. I want to talk about culture. I want to talk about where the future looks like. The day-to-day is going to be happening to someone else. And the fact is you just need to set up a cadence, a regularity of how often do you do this? Do you do it once a month? Do you do it once every other month? How often? When do you do it? That kind of a thing. That's for me. I know that when I've made different leaps, I had to separate accountability and me being the voice of vision, because you at this point, your mission critical is about vision, communication, and making sure resources are in place. That's where your mission critical lies. And so with them, it's got to be your directors and the people below them. It's got to be about vision, got to be culture. It's got to be about values. It has to be about where we're headed. It has to be high-level leadership thoughts. That's where your focus has to be. And you realize that the larger you get, Jared, the less people you pastor. Most people think it's the opposite. It's not. Mm-hmm. You don't pastor. You get to 10 campuses, you're not pastoring 10,000 people. You're pastoring 10 campus pastors. Yes. It's different. And you have to make sure that as you move up, you're adding value to everybody, but those directors, the people that are closest to you, those are the ones you want to keep close to you, and they get more private time. So set up the regularity, separate, make sure they're getting the accountability part from your directors, but they're getting vision and voice and future and value from you. That you have to separate those completely.
That's so good. For the ones that are on the audience, just to let them know, I mean, our church is 99 years old.
Are you really? I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
We're 99 years old. Our founding pastor years ago it was incredible just to see what he did. But my dad grew up in the church, and so he pastored for 40 years. And my dad and I transitioned around 4 years ago.
Wow.
But through the last 8 years, we've grown about 600%. I've been so thankful. But I think it's important for what you're talking about just then. I'm taking notes as I hope that's okay
Yeah.
as you're sitting there throwing some things, because you challenged me with knowing my role. What I
Yes.
watched in our church when we were at 96, 97 people as a kid growing up. I'm 40, so through my whole dad's tenure, I was a part, and watching him be at all the ball games, all the funerals, all the things, and then
Yeah.
let's break some of the growth barriers over the years. And now sometimes I feel a little bit guilty because I may not know that person that's in second service, section 3, you know.
Right.
I don't even know who that group leader is. I go through, I don't even know who that security person is.
Right.
And but I've went with this phrase, and maybe you can just, I mean, with the audience, but also just kind of help me. Like, I went through this phrase of, I just want to know the people that know the people. Is that an accurate
Yeah.
phrase?
Yeah. No, that's great. That's awesome. That's a really great phrase. Yeah, you got to know the people that know the people. Absolutely. 100%. The thing is I mentioned the word mission critical.
I highlighted that in there. Yeah.
And so let me give you, it's been quite a while since I've talked about it on the podcast, but mission critical is so interesting. So if you think of it like, and I'll give you kind of a 5-minute version of what takes 30 minutes teaching, but mission critical, think of it like a target, like a bullseye when you're playing darts. Okay. The middle of that bullseye is the word mission critical, right? That's the bullseye. The next layer out is called highly important. Then the next layer out is called meaningful. And then the last layer out on that dartboard or the target, whatever, is called external pressure. Mission critical, if you were to define mission critical for you, Jared, it is a lot easier than you think. Because some people are like, I don't even know where to start. I said, just fill in the blank. And every time they go, what do you mean fill in the blank? Just here it is. Ready? If Jared doesn't do blank, our future is threatened. That's it. What's the blank? That is your mission critical. You can't have more than 3 or 4. You can't have 20. What is your mission critical? Now watch this. You go to that outside layer on that dartboard or the target or whatever. It's called external pressure. Now, external pressure, that's the people that on the outside that have their own agenda. So it's kind of like, why aren't we more verse by verse? Why aren't we more spiritual? Why aren't we more passionate in our worship? Why don't we do more outreach? And all these people on the outside are telling you, we need to do more of this. Our church needs to be more verse by verse. We need to have more for the men. We need to have more for the women. And they're trying to pull what happened. They're not trying to do it, but what it does is it pulls you away from mission critical. So the external pressure is pulling you away from mission critical. And the reason we give into it, why do we give into external pressure? Because some of us are people pleasers. Some of us don't want to say no. We're afraid because that person that's complaining is related to 26 people in the church. And if they get upset, then they're going to leave and all that stuff. So there's that. Then their next level is meaningful. Things we like to do, to do. But they're not exactly helpful to the overall organization. It's like, man, I really like, I got a real eye for graphics. Well, that's great, but you're the lead pastor and we need you in that role. We don't need you looking at graphics, even though you're really good at it. The last one is highly important. That's the thing that is really, really still important, but it's still one level short of mission critical. Doesn't mean that it doesn't need to get done. It just means that it doesn't need to get done by you. That's the difference on highly important. It doesn't mean it doesn't need to get done. It probably needs to get done because it's highly important. It just doesn't need to get done by you. Mm-hmm. And then you get to mission critical. And that's such an amazing place for you to keep, as you grow, you revisit that mission critical. You get your high-level leaders to revisit their mission critical. Because here's what's happening is we respond to the urgent rather than to what's really, truly important that we should be focused on. One thing I always say is the urgent is rarely important and the important is rarely urgent. Mm-hmm. The urgent is rarely important, and the important is rarely urgent. And the important things, the things you should be doing, they're not like they have to be done next week, but they need to be continually done. Mission critical is about knowing where Jared needs to be spending his time, where the organization needs Jared spending their time and not feeling guilty about it.
Yeah.
That's where you have to get to. Because if you don't get to a point of mission critical, you will become the lid. And there's a difference between lid and capacity. Lid is what we put on ourselves. Capacity is what God puts on us. And your lid is put on in the organization when you start giving your time, energy, and focus to everything that's not mission critical. I hope that's helpful.
No. That is amazingly helpful, because I had somebody tell me one time about what are your 4 big rocks.
Yeah, same concept.
Yeah, same concept.
Yeah, but the way you find that is if Jared doesn't do blank, our future's threatened.
That is such a great question.
And that's the question you have to answer. What is the blank? Okay, it can't be 29 things, but what is the blank? I can tell you for sure. Dude, if you're not tapping in and figuring out how to maximize and create greater resources, our future's probably threatened. I mean, hey, we're going to have a chance to open a 4th campus. It's going to cost $200,000. Where are we going to get it? I don't know, but Jared's been doing a lot of funerals. Like, well, that's great, but we need money. So you can see how things are like, no, that's actually more important. I'm not saying doing the funerals aren't important. I'm just saying they're not important for Jared to do. Because if Jared doesn't do that funeral or that wedding or that hospital visit or that fill in the blank, our future's not threatened. Mm-hmm. If you're not raising resources, then our future's threatened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just knocked on a door just then. Just a little bit.
Am I knocking on your door? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, sir.
So, and you have to be okay with it, and your team needs to be okay with it, and it's important for them too, because they'll end up doing all sorts of busy stuff and whatever. But what's the thing that's like, man, if you don't do this, we're in trouble. Like you're one of your key staff members. If they're not developing leaders, our future's threatened. I mean, literally just incredibly developing leaders and raising leaders up. Why is that? Oh man, hey, we've got an opportunity to take over a church that's got 40 people left and it's dying, but they need a whole new staff and they're going to become one of our campuses. Well, what worship pastor are we going to send there? Oh, I don't know. I haven't been developing leaders. Then we're in trouble. Mm-hmm. You can see how that can work for your staff too. It's like, what? Let's say one of your staff members, Steve. If Steve doesn't do blank, our future's threatened. Okay, Steve, what's the blank? Mm-hmm. Because they too have a mission critical that if they don't do it, they threaten the future of the church.
That's good.
So,
especially as you're working through your team, and we to and through the team, to and through the coach, working through those areas. Yeah,
absolutely. So, excuse me, that I would encourage you, and we can talk about more about this offline, but there's a whole thing that goes with it. You get to a point where you're either eliminating, delegating, or automating. How do you figure out which one goes where? There's like the whole system that goes to it. But I believe personally that your capacity is probably up here. Our lid is down here because of we don't make the move, we don't make the shift, we don't make the change, we don't get mission critical, we don't figure that out, we don't get the help we need to figure that out, whatever it is. But I see that all the time where I'm like, dude, you are spending, I see it all the time with leaders. You're spending time in areas that are not going to move this organization forward.
And they're mission critical.
Yep, they're not mission critical. They're important and they're meaningful, or they're external pressure, just like, the 3 layers, but they're not exactly mission critical. And you got to be spending about 70% of your time in mission critical. And most people don't. And that's why I think they get stuck.
That is, because honestly, we feel, we're a very rural community, and we've been very blessed, but I'm feeling very, I feel like I'm almost like to the top of the lid and like, all right, I need to bust this thing open. And that, that's the key, one of the key indicators. Hey, one more question, just real quickly. You talked about utilizing, meeting, having those meetings, having those conversations, maximizing those opportunities. We do an all directors meeting at both locations once a month. It's coming up in the Thursday after this Easter weekend. What would you say, from my perspective, we're talking about mission critical, what do you see the best way to maximize these monthly all director meetings that you just give some tips for the audience and honestly me? I'm here to take some notes. So
Yeah.
to really makes the meeting efficient
Yep.
and productive from my
Yeah.
perspective.
So you're talking about meeting with the directors at is it 2 or 3 campuses?
We have 2 campuses
2.
currently.
Okay. So meeting with the directors at 2, how many people does that all include? Like who'll be in the meeting? Is like 8,
There'll
10,
be,
12,
there'll be 14.
14.
Yeah.
So things that I always think need to be a part of it. Obviously, I think celebration needs to be a part of it. We got to be celebrating. I don't think we slow down long enough to celebrate. Celebration's got to be a big part of it. I think that you have to take a moment to, at times, I think it can intertwine differently. I think vision is very important. Culture is very important. Core values, very different than aspirational values, but core values I think are very important. Those are the things that I think they need to hear from you. Obviously you pray, you see what God has to say, what does he want to say, and all that. Obviously that comes first, but in general, those are the times where I'm like, okay, man, hey, I want to revisit one of our core values. Hey, I want to revisit one of our, what our mission is all about. I want to our vision, where we're headed. Okay, if we're going to get there, here's the 4 things we all need to have. They need to hear from the leader. I don't think it needs to be some big 45-minute teaching, but they need to hear 20 minutes of vision, 20 minutes of direction, 20 minutes of alignment talks, 20 minutes of culture talk that comes from you. They need to hear that. Celebrating, getting everybody else to win, hearing the celebrations, making sure other people are winning. Those things are important as well. Any things that you're seeing a problem with, any leader, what I call leader drift in one of my books, any leader drifting you're seeing, it needs to be addressed. But vision, core values, those kind of things, just they really need to constantly always remember that vision leaks and people drift constantly. It never stops. Vision's always leaking. People are always drifting. And you constantly are making course corrections with your team. You're constantly revisiting mission, vision, our values, where we are, who we are, where we're headed, why we do this, culture type stuff. You're always going to that because vision is continually leaking and people are continually drifting. And you have to keep moving them into an alignment.
That's so good. I mean, 'cause sometimes you feel like you need to, I mean, I'm just being honest. Like sometimes you feel like you need to come up with a new thing. You listen to the podcast and you're like, hey, I got some inspiration from, and because sometimes like, I mean, I guess it's assumption, but just kind of thinking, even with the team, they've heard that before. They know that.
Yeah.
That when you're saying vision is constantly leaking because leaders are constantly drifting, we're assuming, but the truth is that they are drifting.
Yeah, they are 100%. I mean, go to the Old Testament. Moses says, hey, I'm going to go up and pray. I'll be back in a while. He comes back 6 weeks later and they build a cow out of gold. Like, what the heck? It only took 6 weeks for you guys to drift?
Yeah.
And they're Moses' leader. They're not Chris and Jared's leader. They're Moses' leader. And in 6 weeks they drifted. That's all it took. Yes, vision is leaking and people are drifting. And the one thing that we have to come to a realization is I think about ministry from the minute I wake up to the minute I go to sleep, and sometimes in the middle of the night. You do the same thing. Mm-hmm. Your youth pastor, unless he's wired a certain way, is not thinking about it the way that you do and not thinking about it as much as you do. Your directors, probably not. Maybe there's once in a while someone that's going to end up being an amazing lead pastor someday on your team, which is awesome. That's great. They might be thinking about it a lot, but the average staff member is thinking about it less than you. And when you remind them of something, what you feel like, man, I've said this 185 times, they're barely starting to get it. And that's just the way it is. So you when you're in the lead role, you think about it much more than other people do. So you're thinking, oh my gosh, I got to say that again. It's like, no, yeah, but you're saying it to someone who thinks about this much less than you do. And that's just reality, and I think a job of a leader is to define reality, not deny it, but define it. And defining it is, this is the reality, man. The reality is they don't think about it as much as you and I. That's the fact.
That's so good.
Yeah. So anyway, anything else you wanted to chat about today?
I'm sure there's a lot, but I also want to be mindful of your time. Actually, I know there's a lot. I just want to thank you again. Thank you
Yeah.
I mean, we just power packed this last 20 minutes and just with some things that I need to ask myself some questions
Yeah.
and really let it hit in my face. And
Yeah.
especially because God has put a calling and a mission here in this rural area, and
Yep.
we've seen God's blessing, but what got us here is not going to get us there. And
Nope.
we continue to work and allow people to be able to grow in their plan that God has for them and
Amen.
lead them into that. So mission critical. What's my mission critical?
Well, keep up the great work. You and I have been on the phone a few times. You've been to some of our rescue events and all that. You've been very generous to help us, and with your time and energy and resources. But I'm telling you, the thing that I would say to you is you're in a rural area. I've worked with rural pastors before. I live in Southern California. That's far from my world, but we've got team members that are in rural. I got a guy that's got 5 campuses in rural. I've got guys that are running 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 in rural, and I'm coaching a guy in a rural town right now. They got 1,800 in the town, and he's got 900 in his church. So 1 out of 2 people go to his church. So funny because the guy is like, he told me, it was about 2 months ago, he's like, I was talking to the mayor. I go, hey, buddy, you're the mayor. 1 out of 2 people go to your church. You're the mayor. You just don't have the title. But don't let the rural thing ever get in the way. There is strategy that can go with it. There's development that go with it. Get the help you need, get the coaching you need, get the development of people around you, but don't ever slow down because you could become the king of rural in this nation. And America's made up of a lot more rural than it is big cities. And so there's a lot more opportunity there than there almost is anywhere else. So keep up the good work, man. And anything I can do to serve you, you let me know. I'm always here to serve.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. Enjoy
All right, buddy. Have a good day. All right.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed today's conversation with Jared, and I hope you got a lot out of it today. Don't forget also to check out churchboom.org. Remember, there's so many things that we have going on, and we'd love for you to be a part of it. We are here to help. We're here to be a tribe. We're here to elevate your leadership, and that's what Church Boom is all about. So check out churchboom.org, and we will see you on the next podcast.